Chiefs fans know tight ends all too familiar. They've had a lot of good ones in their time as fans, and there's plenty of really good tight ends in this class. What's up for everybody? Ken Swanson hanging out at Holladay Distillery in Weston, Missouri with my buddy Jake Stack. We work on the KCSN draft guide together, and we're breaking down some prospects, taking a break from all that work to sip on some Five Farms Irish cream on the rocks. It's been really good, and we're getting to watch college prospects while we do it. There's really not much better. Let's talk a little bit about this tight end class. And for us, when we're doing the KCSN draft guide, the guy that we have at the top of the list when it comes to tight ends is Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State. Let's watch a little bit about him. I know you're a big fan of his, Jake.
Yeah, I think you look at him and talk about like a traditional wide tight end that can block and receive is such a valuable thing in today's NFL. Because if you don't have one of the top 2, 3, 4 tight ends in the league, you're probably more so playing matchups. But I think with Ruckert, you can keep him on the field all 3 downs. And he's a guy that played at Ohio State that I think was a little bit underutilized. And his best football is still in front of him. You look at the way he can catch the ball, flip his hips, and get upfield. That's rare. I think with tight ends, you got to look at guys that they move different. And he is a guy that on the field, he moves different. When you watch him play and you look at the flexibility that he has in his lower half of his body, that's what excites me about him. And then you look at him as a blocker as well. Still some work to do, like most guys coming out at that position. But you love the functional strength that he already has.
Well, I think it's really hard to, really easy, to get lost with all the receivers that this team has. So like the fact that maybe he, kind of got overshadowed a little bit at times as the tight end probably isn't really a knock on him because of all the wide receiver talent that's sitting around him. But you see him, a guy up the seam as a seam runner, so comfortable catching the ball away from his frame. Some of those throws we've seen, balls that are a little bit off target. He's been able to, catch them comfortably. I really like him as well. I think there's a lot to like about him. I would love to see the Chiefs invest in a guy like Ruckert with his, a true Y ability and some ability to kind of project even farther than that. Another tight end we got a chance to talk about at the East-West Shrine Bowl, Jelani Woods out of Virginia, an interesting prospect who started his career as a quarterback at Oklahoma State, transitioned to tight end, had an outstanding final season with the Cavaliers, Jake.
He's a dog, an absolute dog with the ball in his hands. He should not have tested the way he did. And at this tight end position, like this right here, he's going to make it in the end zone. He's a guy that you bet on athletic traits at this position. And he is a guy that I think in 3 or 4 years, we could be looking back at this and saying, why didn't he go in front of all these other guys? Because he has every single raw tool that you would want. Blocking is still a work in progress, but the effort is there. Mm-hmm. And that's always hard to project. But when you got a guy that tries as hard as he does, you got to think there's an NFL coach that's saying, we can teach him to be that way. Because my God, his abilities as a receiver and a run after the catch. I mean, you have guys that are legitimately having to make business decisions when tackling him because he runs angry.
Well, and I think you comped him in the KCSN draft guide, I believe, to Jimmy Graham. Mm-hmm. And I think there are some correlations to Jimmy Graham with the frame, the size, the athleticism, the movement skills. And look how comfortable he is catching the ball.
He's more mean than Jimmy Graham.
There's some ability there. Yeah, there's some chops as a blocker and some potential as a blocker.
Look at that opposing coach. He's angry. He's an angry person.
And, we got to talk to him at the East-West Shrine Bowl, and we got to spend some time just kind of getting to know him. His why in the end, why he wants to be a great NFL player and why he wants to support, his family. He's got a brother whose career was kind of cut short due to some injuries. He's also got a brother with special needs, and he's kind of doing it. His why is pretty special and kind of getting to learn his story on top of, all the, we got to see him flash during the NFL Combine and during the Shrine Bowl. The guy, the man that Jelani Woods too, it's really hard not to root for him as well. Obviously we talked a little bit about the blocking. I think that's definitely an area that he's going to have to kind of work and develop because he did start as a quarterback, but you look at his frame. This is a guy that should be able to play in line and should be able to block as he develops, Jake.
Yeah, and I love his catch radius. He's got supernatural hands down the field. I mean, he's just a mismatch nightmare. You want to cover him with a more athletic safety, but he's just going to bully him. Or you want to cover him with a linebacker. He's not athletic enough. I mean, that's a good tackle there to get him on the ground, but you
saw who was on the receiving end of that contact.
Yep. And right here too, two guys getting him to the ground. And he's just got raw speed too. He showed it at the NFL Combine. And
watch him run through contact there.
Yep, his ability to get off the line of scrimmage too is really fun.
Yeah, there's a sleeper in this tight end class as well, and I think people are starting to come on to him a little bit more. And he's not a true inline tight end. It's Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina, more of a move F type guy. And Jake, even you kind of mentioned him as potentially a power slot player. This is an interesting prospect here at tight end. Out of Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people like him because of his run after catch ability. He's exciting with the ball in his hands. He's got some creativity to get up the field. He's not just to stick your head down and try to run. He will actually make guys miss. And he's got, you see it right there, the ability to go up and get it. He plays the position like a big wide receiver, and his ability to get off the line of scrimmage is good. His ability within his route stand is good. I think teams are going to look at him and say, we're going to bet on his athletic ability. We're going to bet on him being a receiver out of the backfield. Talk about the run after catch ability right there. And he's a guy that I think teams are going to really like in that role to kind of move around and put him in the slot, put him out wide, get some reps in line. It's almost funny because that's almost a more traditional tight end in today's NFL. Someone that is more of a threat as a receiver and that you can move around all over the formation.
This is a better version, and not apples to apples, but I think about Noah Gray and some of the things that you liked about Noah Gray, kind of an F-type tight end, a guy that could line up as a Y ISO on the backside of a formation. I think Isaiah Likely is a guy that's very similar. Like, I think you could line him up a little bit as that kind of X-Y ISO type player, but he's probably got a little bit more juice and ability after the catch, like you said, to a guy like Noah Gray. Big fan of Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. A sleeper to watch in this draft. Could be a very productive NFL career for him.